Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all doing well. In this video, we are going resin and Jesmonite together, similar to a previous video. You would have seen me make this a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, if you would like to see how I just made probably the ugliest thing I've ever made on my channel, let's go. So I started out this video with high hopes, love and light and all of the positive vibes that this was going to be another really cool project. It didn't all go to plan, but we will talk about it. The first thing I'm doing is laying down an inlay. Now these molds are from Moulds and Shapes in the Netherlands. I will link them below. If you like the look of these molds, I am a tad obsessed with this tray mold and this candle holder. They are from Moulds and Shapes, like I said, so the details are below, and there's a 5% discount for you if you use my code CCC5 at the checkout. So you would have already seen this mold and this candle holder on my channel. I've already made a couple of videos using it and oh my gosh, love them. I filmed this around about 1 month ago and I just couldn't bring myself to carry on. I couldn't bring myself to finish it. It took a lot of strength to carry on. I cannot even lie. It was just one of those projects that just took everything I had. It took everything I had. Right, starting off, we went in with a tattoo. If you know me, if you've been with me a while, you know I love my temporary tattoos in resin and I'm still obsessed. So yeah, I do need me some more though. The other thing I'm going to do is lay down this inlay. Now, this inlay is also from Moulds and Shapes. And I thought it would be the perfect size to sit the candle holder in when we're done. When everything is done and dusted and demolded, it's going to house the candle holder beautifully. I'm adding a little bit of Druzy. So at this point, I'm kind of doing this whole Claire thing, okay? I'm going to shove it all in, see what happens. Now, here's the thing. I'm using Vista Turbo resin. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the resin. What happens in this video was utterly human error, okay? Human error. If you remember my last resin and Jesmonite video, the number one question or the number one, I guess, suggestion was to leave the resin to thicken up before pouring it in with the Jesmonite. If you watched that video, you'll know that the Jesmonite was so heavy, it pushed down through the resin and pushed the resin up. And I didn't want that to happen again in the candle holder. So I made the resin ahead of time. That's number one. Number two, Vista Turbo is a fast cure resin. Demold after just 5 hours. Massive mistake on my part. I didn't really think it through. Then I was going for this gorgeous bluey grey muted calming colour for the tray. It took that long for me to get the colour that I really wanted to match the resin. So the resin colour was like this calming blue icy kind of shade. I wanted the Jesmonite to match. It took a while. It took a while before I was happy with the colour and before I was ready to pour. At this point, the resin has been sitting in the cup for 20 minutes. That's not long, I hear you say. However, this resin is a fast curing resin. So at this point, I'm not seeing it. I'm not really aware. I've stirred it a couple of times to make sure, and I felt the cup. And at this point, the cup is feeling hot. However, I do need to make sure that this mandala inlay has got all of the little nooks and crannies filled before I can pour any Jesmonite. So here we go. This is when the smoke starts to billow out of the cup and my heart starts to race. I am pouring this Jesmonite, which by the way has started to cure. You can see how thick it is. It's not usually this thick on pouring. The resin, I've splashed it everywhere. I can see smoke. I don't know if you can see smoke coming out around about now at the top of the screen. There is white smoke billowing from this resin. I know that this resin is on the verge of going exothermic. I had no time whatsoever. You can already see it is setting in the tray. It is setting in the tray. There's nothing I can do about it. But instead of kind of pouring it into the candle holder, I had to run outside with my cup of resin because I was so concerned about that smoke. I covered the cup with a kind of piece of card and fabric, and I ran downstairs and I just sat the cup outside in the garden, which means the candle holder never even got the resin. And the whole point of leaving the resin to thicken up was so that I could layer my candle holder. So at this point, I am crying inside. My soul has left my body. I'm angry. I'm so angry at myself. I'm like, wow, why do you do it? You knew this was a fast curing. Honestly, sometimes when I fail, I've realized that when something doesn't go right, it really doesn't go right. And I'm mad at myself. This is the result. Guys, this is 2 minutes. 2 minutes after pouring that resin into the tray, it went off. Completely cured, rock hard exothermic. So this image here is around about an hour later. I brought it in from the garden. It had cooled down completely. There was no more smoke. So I just brought it in to see if I could save the spatula. The spatula is nice and clean, which is a win-win. But what a tragic waste. I tried the back. Oh, at this point, it's the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life. I knew I had to save the back if I could even be bothered. Again, it's a lot of product to waste, so I knew I had to try and save it as much as possible. It came out of the mould beautifully. Even though this resin was about 300 degrees when I poured it, it came out. It wasn't 300 degrees, by the way, guys, but it was hot, hot, hot. The mould was perfectly fine. Everything at this point was just ugly to me. Ugly. I knew I'd failed, so I wasn't coping. I wasn't coping with this failure at all. The mandala, oh my gosh, my favorite section. My favorite section. You know, the inlays from Moulds and Shapes leave the most beautiful patterns. The tattoo, utter failure. The resin melted the tattoo. You can't really see it very well on camera, but the image is totally distorted. Jesmonite doesn't pick up tattoos from any mould. It doesn't work. And that's what I was trying to avoid the Jesmonite touching the tattoo, but I failed on that. And now we've got this sticky, melted mess of a tattoo. Oh my gosh. Honestly, I could have quit right there and then. I was ready to give up. I really was ready to give up on this. But my conscience, it's so much product to just call it a day. I knew I had to do something. The candle holder, as a result of everything that happened, is now plain and simple. But oh boy, does it feel so good in my hands. The mould for this candle holder is sublime. There's no other way to describe it. It's got rounded, smooth edges. It is absolutely beautiful. Now, okay. My first initial thought was use some alcohol, some 99%, whatever alcohol you've got, to get rid of the tattoo. It worked okay. Then I decided to highlight the mandala with some pale blue paint. I didn't like it. I think it was a full moon this day. I wouldn't honestly put it past the universe for it to have been a full moon. This was one of those days when absolutely nothing went well, and I was honestly on the verge of quitting. Call it hormones, call it whatever you want. I was on the verge. I was like, I'm so done with this. I absolutely hate this. I'm never good at anything. It was honestly one of those moods. It got me in such a mood, and it is unlike me. I'll be honest. I do tend to be like, oh well, it didn't work. It didn't work. Okay, we move on. We live and learn. We try again. We try something new. But anyway, here we are. I rubbed off the majority of that paint. However, I did get some in the nooks and crannies, which I did like. I'm now using some wax that I got from I Love Mixed Media, from Denise over at I Love Mixed Media. I'm loving the wax. I'm loving the highlight. Then I thought I could save it with some silver pen. Honestly, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know where my head was at on this project. I just knew I couldn't give up. It was one of those, you know, when people are like screaming at you from a distance, just like, let it go. Just let it all go. Stop, walk away, put it down, take a breather, leave the room. But no, nope. I carried on until I hated this with every inch of my being. I hated it. The only part I loved was the shape and the mandala section. At this point, I didn't even like the Druzy section. I hated it. I really hated it. So I turned to my patrons. I sent my patrons photos of what I deemed to be the ugliest thing I have made so far this year. I even put a tassel on it to see if it would look pretty, and it was an absolute no-no. All of my patrons agreed that I should try to save it. This is around 2 weeks later. 2 weeks. I couldn't even look at it. It was like I'd fallen out with my ex and I just didn't even want to look at it. It didn't exist. I put it to the back of my mind and then I thought, come on, Claire, come on. You can do it. You can fix it. The plan is to fill the back. Now you can sand the back. Of course, I could have sanded the back. I made the back a lot worse by trying to drag the Jesmonite up and over the resin, but it was like lava from a volcano that was kind of cured in a rolling position. It just didn't work. So I mixed up some extra Jesmonite. I actually ended up with the colour I wanted in the first place. The irony that it's now on the back, but never mind. This is one little drop of blue and a teeny tiny dab of black to create this gorgeous calming grey blue. And the masking tape held up really well. So for anyone who wanted to know if you can use masking tape in this way, absolutely yes you can. This is the first time I've tried it. Worked a dream. All right, I've got some bumpy edges, but compared to the overall mess and disaster of the piece, I was okay with bumpy edges. The hot glue stick that I wedged in the hole, again, worked a dream. It just slid out of there quite happily, gave me a really clean, neat hole. And yes, this piece has now doubled in size and it has tripled in weight, and it would make an incredible doorstop, I'm not going to lie. The next thing for me to do was to sand the front, get it all off, just get rid of all my past mistakes, put them to the back of my mind and pretend they never existed. I sanded the front, and I sanded the front for a solid 15 minutes, wet sanding on a 240 grit. It got rid of the tattoo, it got rid of all that silver pen, big mistake, and it left me with... it just left me with shame. The end result after sanding was bleak and miserable. However, I asked my patrons, what would you do? What would you do? Do you go for it? Do you keep going? Add more Druzys, add more everything? Do I add tattoos? And the overall vote to save this piece from my patrons was to add tattoos. Guys, listen, if in doubt, add tattoos. You know how in the UK, definitely in Ireland for sure, and in the UK, and I'd hasten a bet and say most of Europe, when you're having a really bad day, if something has gone really badly wrong, or you've just had a wreck, a car crash, and your car is a complete write-off, the first thing anyone says is, I'll put the kettle on. I'll put the kettle on. We'll have a cup of tea. It'll all be okay. That is definitely my interpretation of tattoos, okay? If you've got a disaster, if you've got something that is sinfully ugly, that you just don't want to show anyone because it's the worst thing you've ever made. I mean, this is not the worst thing I've ever made. You know, when I was a new starter, oh my gosh, yeah, we won't even go back there. It's trauma. Slap a tattoo on it. Okay? This is my advice to you. If I can give you one thing today, if you're still here after 14 whopping minutes, slap a tattoo on it. Because I am telling you now, when it came to peeling this off, here we are. I was not wanting or expecting. I didn't really want the tattoo to go down into the mandala. However, it did, and oh my goodness me, I loved it. A happy accident, as Bob Ross liked to say, but now it is time to peel back the tattoo. The tattoo that is going to save this. Okay, here goes. I hope you get the reaction that I got, because oh my goodness me. There is nothing a tattoo cannot make look pretty. This is so much prettier. It's not ideal. It weighs more than my house, but look at it. Oh my gosh, I was so happy. I did rip the tattoo, the one on the right hand side. There was a gap there because I overlapped the tattoo with the other tattoo, but that's okay. This is 1,000 times prettier and better than it was. I hope you all agree with that because at this point I'm loving it. Here's the thing. I'm going to try and use an acrylic sealer on tattoos. I've not done it before, but the plan was really for me to do a resin top coat. I spoke about this with my patrons, and a resin top coat really for me was the only way forward because it's all I've really ever known. Whenever I've used tattoos in trinket trays, tattoos in resin, put them on Jesmonite, I always expected to have to put a resin top coat on the top because tattoos need sealing. If you do not seal your tattoos, you will be left with a sticky surface. So I thought, do you know what? I've invested so much time and energy and emotions. Let's not forget the emotions, okay? I've invested so much time and energy into this piece. I cannot be bothered to do resin. That is the hard and simple truth. I can't be bothered. Okay, we're going to go with acrylic sealer. If it fails, we will go to resin. Here I am using a really professional blotting cloth, also known as the back of my apron, to try and blot off some of the acrylic sealer. So I put the acrylic sealer on first, the correct ratio of 20% water, 80% neat, rubbed it all over, saturated the whole piece before rubbing it over with a sponge and then blotting it off with the back of my apron. The reason I did this was to get rid of all the bubbles. This acrylic sealer really does bubble up like almost like fairy, like washing up liquid. It can get real bubbly. So I decided to do the same again. This is the second coat, neat, completely neat, not diluted, Jesmonite acrylic sealer, and I'm doing the same thing again. I've literally saturated the whole thing with my hand, rubbed it in. I don't know if that's doing anything. At this point, I didn't care. I just wanted to see the end of this. Then I blotched it. What's the word? I squished it with the sponge all over before laying the back of my apron down, rubbing it over with my hand to get rid of all the fuzz. There's lots of bubbles, lots of fuzz. And this is it. This is the end result. This is 2 layers of the acrylic sealer and I'm leaving it. I'm walking away for 48 hours. I want to leave it as long as possible. This is 48 hours later. I'm doing a water test just to see if it runs off. It runs off, which tells me this is sealed as much as it's going to need to be sealed. Now listen, this is a candle holder. There's really no intention or plan to be pouring water on it anyway. So is it fit for purpose? Absolutely yes. Is it functional? Yes. Is it pretty? Yes, it's so pretty. Oh my gosh. And it's right up my street. These are my colours. You wouldn't really know there's resin in there because it died. The resin, yeah. RIP to the resin. I didn't care at this point to bring the resin through. You know, I didn't care. I was past caring. I cannot lie with you guys. But I added some blue beads. I spray painted the beads in blue, totally the wrong colour. I accept that. However, it does go well with the darkness of the tattoo. The pot does look plain. I don't know whether I'm going to add to it. I could add to it, but I also want to say goodbye, and I want to just put this project, I want it gone. I want it gone. I want it over and done with. But I'm loving it. Look at this. Look at this. I really and truly hope you guys agree. Ignore the sides. We're going to pretend that doesn't exist, okay? For the sake of everything, let's pretend this is Instagram and everything's perfect and filtered. But oh my goodness me, I love it right up my street. Even with the plain pot, I love it. Let me know your thoughts, and let me know if you would have saved it. Would you have saved it? What would you have done? How would you have saved it? Would you have sanded the back? Would you have carried on? Or would you have just called it a day? Because this took everything I had to see it through to completion. And I'm so glad I did, because now I love it and I know it is going to look gorgeous in my living room. So yeah, a massive thank you to my patrons who gave me so much encouragement to carry on and not just let it go. But yeah, I absolutely love it. Thank you so much if you've stayed this long. This was a long video. This is 20 minutes long, so I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, massive thank you from me to you. One side note, if you're still here, I'm very aware that they are doing away with the Jesmonite acrylic sealer, and I know I use a lot of it in this video. So hopefully other sealers will be on the market very soon, and I'm hoping to test some out and kind of share with you guys any other sealers that come my way that I hear of, and we'll see what else works. But yeah, I understand that the acrylic sealer is no longer available for most people, so I am sorry about that, but hopefully we'll have another one soon. And that is all from me. I will see you all in the next video, which will not be this one. I'm so glad to see the back of this one. I'll see you all then. Bye.